All right, just a couple of things before we start. Your microphone has been muted, so if you have any questions, feel free to type them out in chat. We have Bob
Hey,
here.
Sabrina, you ready to go?
Oh. Hello? Are you able to hear me okay?
I can hear you, Sabrina.
Okay, good. All right, just making sure. Hold on just a second and I'll go ahead and go back. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so your microphones have been muted. If you have questions, feel free to type them out in chat. We have Bob here who's helping out, and he'll be able to read your questions out to me. I'll answer them as best as I can. We do ask that you are respectful when making comments. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Sabrina. We're going to be doing today Photopea, specifically GIF editing. We're not going to go through a ton of the basics for this since there was a class for that earlier, but I will go ahead and mention whatever tools I'm using the first time that I use them, just so that you can follow along. So really quickly, just in case you're unaware, Photopea is a website. It works very similarly to Photoshop. So you can edit photos, and as we can see, you can edit GIFs on here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my screen here to the website. Okay, can everyone see that okay? We should have the website up here. It's just photopea.com. As you can see, we have all of our tools here on the left side. And what we're going to do first is we're going to go ahead and open up a new file here. So let's go ahead and do new. One of the important things to note when we're making GIFs is you can make fairly large GIFs. However, if you do make something that is larger than, say, 1,000 pixels on one side, it is going to slow down your computer. And even though you can use Photopea on your phone, if you try and make a large GIF on your phone, it might stop working. So we do want to try and keep our GIFs to a fairly manageable size, just to make sure that it doesn't slow down whatever computer or phone we're using. So let's go ahead and do our first project here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to first do putting a GIF onto just a solid background, just a photo. So let's go ahead, we'll open our first one here. There we go. Okay, so right now I've just got a sunset here. So to move it into the project folder, you can just do Control-C, or you can right-click here on the layer that you want over here in the layer panel. If you have issues seeing it, it may be because it's minimized. You can see there's an option here for making that tool set pop out so you can see it easier. So we're going to go ahead and right click. We're going to duplicate into. I prefer doing this just to make sure that every layer that I've selected is going to the right place. So we're going to put it in project 1. And then here it is. You notice it's going to be a little bit larger than usual. So we're going to see if we can make that a little bit smaller. All right. Okay, so I'm on the move tool here. I have transform controls on so that I can grab the edges of this and shrink it smaller. Here we go. And this one is quite a large file, goodness. Okay. There we go, that's not too bad. Make that a little bit larger so that it fills up the space. Wonderful, okay. So we've got our background now. We're gonna put our GIF in next. So let's go ahead and open our GIF. Now in this case, I've gone ahead and found one that has a transparent background. That is going to be the easiest way to place GIFs together or to place a GIF onto a solid background. Because if it already has a background, it's going to cover up whatever you're putting it on. As you can see here, it has multiple frames because it does move. So trying to edit a background out of a GIF is going to be kind of a time-intensive process. So finding one that already has a transparent background is going to be the best thing. So we're going to do the same thing here, where we duplicate this, and I'm looking at the whole. I'm looking at the whole folder here. Sorry, just duplicated the whole thing. I want to get the whole folder so I have every frame of it. So let's go ahead and put that into the right folder here, into project. Okay, so now we have our sunset, and we can go ahead and move this around wherever we like. Just going to go ahead and set it about right here on the water or so. Okay, and then when we're using Photopea or similar software, it's going to save itself as a file. In this case, it's going to be automatically a PSD, which you can open in Photoshop. They do work together. Or you can transfer files between the softwares, and both will open fine. But this is going to save our layers. It's going to save our background as a separate layer. It's going to save our sunset with all of its frames, but you can't use that as a GIF. So to save it as a different file, you're going to want to go to export. So we're going to export that as a GIF, and then it will show up with a preview of what that will look like. And there we are. We will have a GIF. It's a little bit zoomed in here, but we basically have a GIF of our sunset on top of our beautiful background. You can go ahead and save that. And it will usually show up in your downloads. And from there, you can move it to wherever you needed it to be. All right, so that's the basic saving things as a GIF. But for editing them, say maybe you have 2 GIFs that you want to combine. So let's go ahead and close these really quickly. Did we have any questions on that?
There are no questions so far. I want to remind the guests, if they don't have the chat window open, to use the controls down at the bottom of their Zoom window to open the chat window, and that way they can ask questions if they'd like to, and I'll relay them to Sabrina.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much, Bob. Okay, so we'll go ahead. We're going to create a new project here really quick. Okay.
So a new question. A question just came in.
Oh, good.
The question is, where do we get a GIF download? And I'm not exactly what that means, but yeah.
So this is a bit of a difficult question. The simplest answer is there are GIFs all over the internet, and some of them have transparent backgrounds. Sometimes if you search for a specific GIF with a transparent background, it will already exist. And if you're just doing this for your own fun, I'd say, go for it. Go ahead and save that and use it in your own personal projects. This would not be for professional use, obviously. If you're using something professionally, you have to make sure that you are allowed, that you have permissions to use someone else's images or edits. But if you're just doing this for fun, you can find all sorts of GIFs online. I will usually just do a simple search on a search engine, or I can use, this one doesn't have a ton of GIFs, but I'll go ahead and I'll switch over to it now. There are some places like Pexels here or Pixabay, and they both allow you to use images that are royalty free, which means you can use them for pretty much whatever sort of projects you like, and you can search for all different types of things. These are mainly photographs, but they have options. Did that answer the question okay, I hope?
So far, so good.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
All right, awesome. Okay, so I already have a couple of GIFs here. So we're gonna go ahead and open both of these up. Okay, so both of these are separate GIFs. We can go ahead and combine these to create one. So here we have our beach. There's gonna be water movement. So let's go ahead and put that into our project. Make sure that's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to use the crop tool here because the GIF is a little bit smaller than our canvas. Something important to note here. There is an option that says delete cropped pixels up at the top. I'm leaving that unchecked currently because if I do a crop and maybe I make it too small, the image itself is not gone. You can see that all of it still exists here. I haven't erased any part of the image, which is good. If you accidentally crop something too small, it's not going to delete part of your picture. So I'm going to Control Z that because I do not want to make it that small. But that's important to note if you're cropping. Most of the time, you're going to want to make sure that you're not deleting the pixels that you're cropping out. So let's go ahead and do about like this. That should be fine. And now I'm going to show you a situation where I am going to use the delete cropped pixels because if I do not, whenever I copy the little crab GIFs over, it's going to copy all three of them. And we only want one right now. So I have it checked, delete cropped pixels. There we go. And as you can see, oh, this is the only guy left now. Just the one crab. So we'll go ahead and we'll right click on the folder here. We will duplicate that into our project. And there he is. One crab right here. I'm gonna go ahead and make him just a little bit smaller so we don't have monster crabs wandering around the beach. All right. Now, something important to note. We have, I'm gonna get rid of the background here. We have two folders now. We have the beach GIF, we have the crab GIF. If we say, that's good, just crab on the beach, perfect. And we go to export it as a GIF without doing anything else, you will notice that the first GIF plays and then the second GIF plays and they're completely separate. And we don't want that. So what we're going to need to do, cancel that export, is we're going to select both of our folders here to make sure that we're affecting everything. And we're going to want to go to Layer, Animation, because we're doing an animated GIF, and Merge, because we want them both to act as the same GIF to play at the same time. So if we do that, it becomes one folder, and it tells us that we have both of our GIFs in there, the beach plus the crabs. And now, if we go to export it, we can see that they're playing together. So we do want to make sure that if we're doing multiple GIFs together, that we are merging those folders. There we go. All right. And one more important thing to note, I'm going to undo the merge here just to show you another issue you might run across. We're using animation merge on purpose because they are GIFs and we want them to act as animated GIFs. If you use just the regular merge layers, then it just becomes a still photo. It will not move. So you want to make sure that you're using the animation merge layers so they will stay animated. All right. Any more questions on that, just to make sure?
No more questions yet.
Okay, wonderful. And we will go ahead and we will just close these. Yes, seems good. Okay. All right, so we're going to be moving on to basically creating a GIF, just a very, very simple one. So let's create our third project here. I did not mention this before, but as you can see on the side, they do have some simple templates, not for GIFs, just for simple like photo projects, it looks like. In case that was something that you were interested in, and I do appreciate that. But for now, we're just going to create our own blank canvas here. And And we're going to create a kind of animated background. So let's go ahead and open. I'm going to do open and place just to kind of show you what that looks like. It is going to take the images we have, place them onto the canvas, and basically size them so that they fit. So in this case, we're going to go into our third one here. Okay, we have our desert background and our forest background. We're going to open both of those. There we go. And as you can see, it fit them pretty well. We do have to crop a little bit off the top and bottom, but that is no problem. There we go. Okay, wonderful. Now, if we're going to animate this, you basically need some in-between frames. As you saw for all the folders of our other GIFs, they would have a number of different frames depending on how animated they were. So if we're going to move from forest to desert, we're going to need something in between. So what we're going to do is I'm going to duplicate the forest here. And then I'm going to Control A to select, or you can go into select all. And then you can do Control C, or you can do copy under our edit here. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and paste another forest right here. So either option works for duplicating layers or copy and pasting. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the opacity on this desert right here, just nice and simple. It looks like we're transitioning between forest and desert. I'm going to make sure that both of these layers are selected. I hold down the Control key to click on whichever ones I want to select. In this case, it's just the top two. And then I'm going to right click and I'm going to merge these two layers. These are just photos at the moment. So it's just going to create a photo with the two backgrounds merged. Then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do basically the same thing here where I duplicate these two layers. And as you can see, if you select these eyes at the side, it will show you the layers that you have on, with the one on top being the one that you see. So we're going to take both of our copies here. Go ahead and do another, let's see. I'm going to do an opacity like this. I'm going to see if we can see our forest. Yes. Can we see our desert on top of that? Yes. And I'm going to go ahead and merge these again. Okay. So now what we have is basically a desert. We transition. Here's a forest. We transition again, and then it will go back to the desert. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this background layer just so it's not in the way. This is a very simplistic transition between these. If you want to do something more complicated, you can make more frames with moving between opacities of, like, you can do 20, 40, 60, and so on, and make it a lot smoother. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to stick with something simple for now. We're going to select all of our layers here. And what we can do, again, under layer animation, is you can make them frames. So what we're basically doing is we're taking all of these photos, all of these layers, and we're creating an animation. So now this is going to be kind of fast. If we export it as a GIF, they're going to flash between all of the different layers. This is a little bit fast. We're going to go ahead and do speed of 40, not 400. And it's, excuse me. And it's going to move between these photos now. So we're going between desert and forest, desert and forest. And we say, yeah, that's pretty good. That was pretty good. We can go ahead and save that. Saved a duplicate, but that's okay. And so now what we can do is I'm actually just going to open that new GIF because it is going to show up. And I already have a, let's see, I already have that here. Yeah. Okay. It's going to show up with a folder. And I prefer when they have, when each of the animated frames has its own folder. So now what we can do is open up our transparent GIF that we're going to put over the top. And you can just use this as its own separate animation if you'd like, but I'm going to go ahead and put one on top because I enjoy that. So what we're going to do here, same thing where we right click and we're going to duplicate it into our desert and forest background. And there he is. There's our little BB-8. We're going to set him about right here, I think would work. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and uncheck transform control so we can see him better. All right. So now we have our two GIFs. This is going to work very similarly to what we just tried, where we select both of our folders and we go to our layer animation and we merge those. There we go. All right, we have one merged GIF now. And if we look at the preview for our GIF, and okay, it's telling us that this is a little bit large. We are going to scale it down because yes, as I mentioned, if it's larger than 1000 pixels, it is going to run a little bit slower. So we'll say, okay, that's fine. It might take just a second. There we go. And now, as you can see, because I exported one at the speed of 40 the other time, that's kind of what it's doing here. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit, I think, to maybe 60, see what it does. There we go. That looks a little better. So now we have our BB-8 rolling through our forest and our desert between the two. So that is how you can kind of create an aspect of the GIF if you'd like. It's a very simple method, but it can be fun. All right. So any questions on that?
No questions right now. I'm monitoring YouTube also, and I don't see any questions there.
Okay, wonderful. I'm glad I'm doing a good explanation then. All right. Okay, so we've done some combination of GIFs. We have done GIFs on different backgrounds. So let's go ahead and look like what it would be to do kind of a looping GIF. I'm sure you've seen some options that we've had here where when we do a GIF, let's go ahead and open something up here. Okay, we'll open these up again. Okay, where whenever you go to export it, we have some other options besides just the speed here, which I will move back up to 100. This is going to change. You can change the width and height, although it's probably a little bit easier to do that before you're exporting it. You can say how many times do you want it to repeat. Generally speaking, you'd want to keep that at 0, so it's a continually looping GIF rather than one that plays 2 times and then stops, because that tends to confuse people if it just stops and never loops again. But we also have things like reverse frames. It's a little hard to tell here, but now the waves are going backwards. You can see they start at the top and go back. And we also have boomerang, which would cause it to go forward and then go backwards. And we can kind of see what that looks like if we take our crab here again. Let's grab the bottom one this time. We're going to see what this looks like if we say yes. And we go ahead and duplicate that onto our beach here. Okay. And we're going to move him into the corner. And what we're going to try to do, we're going to make sure we can transform him, make him a little bit smaller, just a bit. Okay. So what we want him to do is we want him to dance off screen, basically, and then come back on and just loop that. So to make this a little easier, and see if I can do this fairly quickly. As I said, editing a GIF frame by frame can be a little time consuming, but one of the simplest ways is, as you can see, it will only show 1 frame at a time. I'm going to show the one on top of that, scoot it to the side, the one on top of that, and I'm scoot it further here. Oh, there we go. Okay. So even if you make one show up, as I just did, if you stay on a different layer, it's going to move the layer you have selected. So we want to make sure that when we show the new one, we also select it so that we're editing that. Show the 4th one, move that all the way over here. And I'm just using the arrow keys because I find that a little simpler rather than grabbing the mouse and trying to move it all around and make sure that it's evenly spaced.
Sabrina, I've got a question.
Yes.
So in the list of files that you're working with there, the different layers, when I'm doing stuff like this is a genuine question, by the way. I'm not just trying to work this in. I get confused by which image or which layer is which. Can you rename each of those so that, you know, each one of them actually like means something, like layer 1A, layer 1B, or whatever?
Yes. So you should be able to, it usually puts a underscore A on the front, just so you know it's an animated frame.
Okay.
But you can name it like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I would be very
Crab.
confused trying to keep up with, you know,
Yeah.
the order I wanted everything. And if I got them out of order, it would be very hard for me to get them back.
Yes. Yes, that is understandable. Yes, so you
Okay,
can
thanks.
rename these.
All right, cool.
And I'll just go ahead. I'll just see if they all look like that. Okay. I leave the A at the front just to remind me this is an animated frame. Okay, so we have our crabs kind of spread out. They don't quite leave the screen yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to duplicate them. As you can see, it basically looks like exactly the same, but it all says copy. I'm just going to leave it like that for now because I do kind of know which is which. The copies are the second one. So I'm going to take all of them all at once. I'm going to scoot them. Let's go ahead and make these invisible. All right, I'm going to scoot them all the way over here. There we go. Okay. And then if I go ahead and show these disappearing. All right, look, looks like our last one here is basically off screen. Wonderful. Nice and simple. Okay. So we've got here our crab that starts here and goes off screen. Now that in of itself would just have a GIF. If we do this, where we make sure to remember to merge our layers here. Let's see, layer animation. I'm gonna merge those first. There we go, wonderful. Okay, this is just going to make an animation, as we see if we look at our export size here and wait for it to load up. It's going to make the crab move very fast, first of all, because we didn't have very many layers on that. Can do a speed of 50 maybe. Wait for it to load. Okay, so he's crawling off screen, but he always just restarts right back at the beginning. And that's not really what we want. So we're going to first of all move that to a speed of like 30 because he's moving very quickly. And then we're going to make sure that loads. There we go. Now, I don't know how that happened. Speed 30, please. There we go. Okay, that's a little bit slower. But we also want him to go off screen and then walk back on without looking like he's teleporting back into place. So we'll select Boomerang. And just like a boomerang, it leaves and then comes back. So it's going to do... Oh. Now it did not do exactly what I expected, which is odd. Oh, there we go. Okay. So it looks like the crab has less frames than the waves. So what it's doing is it's doing the normal frames and then coming back as the waves go. Okay. So that's what we're getting here is the beach has a lot of frames, the crab does not. So it sort of duplicated them in a way where the crab goes forward, 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 and then backwards, 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 backwards. So the way that we would be able to fix that is if we made more of these frames, about the same number that the beach has here, which as we can see looks like about 16, and we only have about 8. So let's go ahead and see if we can do something similar to that. We're going to take, we're going to take this one. we'll just have him walk off screen for a while and stay there. And we will duplicate that. And then I don't know if there is a way to make multiple duplications at the same time. There we go. So this is 9, basically. Okay. So this is the one where the crab is off screen. You can't see it even when I pull it up, just because he is off screen, but he is there off to the side. So let's see if we can duplicate that just a few times. Okay. Okay. That looks like about an even number of layers. So let's see what happens now. If we take these two and we will do our merge. Sometimes when you're combining things, it is just going to be trial and error. Okay, so let's see what happens. There we go. Now it still has him going forward and then teleporting back in, which I cannot say I completely understand. But basically, you can use the boomerang function to make something move forward, and then it will reverse and go back. There we go. Let's undo that. So if you are able to take some frames and make them have about an equal amount back and forth, you could probably fix the small issue I ran into of the crab for some reason showing up in the first frame and scooting off screen before immediately coming back. But that's the basics of the boomerang tool, at least. If you have a GIF that only loops forward, you can also make it reverse and come back. All right, so let's go ahead and let's move on to another one here. Okay. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead, let's make sure that our file is the correct size here. We're on 5 actually. Okay, and then let's open our options here. Okay, so we have some options when creating, again, kind of our own GIFs. And it can be very fun to make something that say, again, I got this from Pexels, to create a GIF that runs behind a normal picture rather than in front of it. So we'll see what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and actually, let's go ahead and do open in place for this one. There we go. And we'll just go ahead and we'll crop here. And we will not delete the cropped pixels. Oh, missed just a bit. Here we go. Yeah, that's fine if we take off a little bit on the edge. Okay, wonderful. So now what we're going to do is we're going to basically create our own GIF that shows up on the phone. To make sure that it actually shows up behind the phone, we're going to take our magic wand here, which is a pretty simple way of selecting something all of the same color. We're going to select this white on the phone screen, and we'll just, oh, rasterizing. So because I brought it in under open in place. It made it a smart object so that you would be able to move it and expand it and transform it without making it pixelated, basically. So if we rasterize this, it will become just a normal object. We have our selection, and now we can delete that. Wonderful. And we're going to go ahead and deselect. So now we have this open space behind the phone where we can put more of our photos. I'm going to do open in place again, just to make sure that it all fits the canvas here. And it won't matter too much if these become smart objects. I'm going to select all of our galaxies here. Now these are going to take a little bit of time to open up. There we go. Okay, wonderful. We have all of our galaxies. And we do want to make sure, though, that they're all going to be in the right place. So we're going to take our phone, drag that up to the top so it's on top of everything. We're going to take a look at each of our layers to make sure that they show up where they should. So we've got this galaxy, looks good on the phone. I'm going to make that invisible. This galaxy looks good, make it invisible. This galaxy, I might want to move around a bit. It doesn't look like much. There we go, that's a little better. All right, make that invisible. This one looks wonderful, but I do want to see more of that pink. Perfect. We've got this galaxy here. Again, I might move it around. That looks fine. Kind of like a night sky, very simple. All right, this galaxy looks good. And I'm going to go ahead and make this one a little bit smaller. Oh, again, we want to make sure we're on the right layer here. So we're on galaxy 3 now. Here we go. There we go, shrink that down so we can see the northern lights a bit better. Wonderful, okay. So now that we have all of that set up, we're going to do a very similar thing that we did with the forest and the desert backgrounds. We're going to take, and we're going to make this phone one invisible. We're going to take all of these galaxies selected, and we're going to go to our animation, and I might want these rasterized. So let's go ahead and make sure that they're not all smart objects. There we go, they're just normal photos now. And we're going to do animation, make frames. And these all count as frames now. Now I'm sure you've seen me use the speed a little bit on this one before. So let's go ahead and make sure, first of all, that it's not going to count the phone as one of those frames. Let's see what happens if we look at our preview here. And it is not, because we did not include the phone background or foreground, as this case may be, as one of the animated frames. It leaves that in place. So now we have all of our galaxies cycling through at a pretty nice pace. I actually do like the 30 speed on this one. And we have a wonderful image of galaxies just going by on a phone. And you can use this for basically anything. You can find an image with a computer. You can find an image with, say, if the person was in the foreground and was still wearing a white t-shirt, you can take the t-shirt out and make images appear on someone's shirt. Anything that you can think of, basically. And this is kind of a fun way to create your own GIF in a sense. I'll go ahead and just save that one. Why not? Okay. Have there been any questions on anything else that we have been going through?
We have not had any other questions.
Okay, wonderful. Again, if you have any questions on anything that we're going through, feel free to type it out in the chat. I am here to answer anything that you have questions about. There are no stupid questions. All of them are welcome. Okay, so it looks like we do still have a little bit of time left, which is great. So I think what I'm going to do, since I did already mention our wonderful free sites here where you can take any of your images, we don't have to go through that. I'm going to go ahead and, again, feel free to type out any questions you have. I'm going to go back to, I believe, the crab GIF that we have and redo that one just a bit. So I'm first going to pull up the one I did a little bit earlier, and show you kind of what that looks like. This was one that I had already edited, and I must have done something a little bit differently here, because I have already combined it, the two GIFs of the crab and the beach. And I'll show you what this normally looks like here. If we export this. Okay, so this one I should be able to do at 100 speed here. There, so we have the crab walking off and walking back on. So this was one I had already saved. But this is basically what it should look like after you've saved it with the boomerang function. So let's see what we're doing here. Okay. We have the beach. And we're going to move this little guy on here. We have our delete cropped pixels on just temporarily so that we can make sure that only this little guy shows up when we duplicate it onto our beach. And I'm going to undo that just so I don't forget about it. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna leave him right here. And let's see what we're doing. I'm gonna make sure that we're moving our crabs a little bit further each time. Again, making sure we're selected on the right layer. This is something that even if you're very used to the software, it can just happen. Sometimes you forget which layer you are currently working on, so it's good to remember to check that. Okay, we have them all moving sideways. Wonderful. Now, if we go ahead and duplicate these, I'm not going to change the names this time just because I do know which ones I am working with. Okay. I have the copies selected.